Hello everyone, this is Ben Jackson with the Illinois Bankers Government Relations Team. Today we're going to wrap up our discussion of the Governor's State of the State and Budget Address that was delivered on Wednesday. We're going to talk about the state's fiscal condition through the end of this fiscal year, which ends in June, and then discuss the Governor's plan for next fiscal year that starts in July. With strong revenue growth that we mentioned in our last video for the state, the Governor's Budget Office now expects that in this fiscal year, ending in June, we'll experience a $1.3 billion surplus. $1.1 billion of that is earmarked in the Governor's plan to go to the state's Budget Stabilization Fund. That's essentially the state's rainy day fund that was virtually unfunded just a few years ago. If this deposit occurs, the rainy day fund will jump to a balance of over $2 billion. Turning to the next fiscal year, starting in July, the Governor's plan projects just under $50 billion in general fund revenue coming into the state, and it sets state spending at $49.6 billion. This budget for the next fiscal year includes a surplus of $303 million, and $138 million of that would be deposited into that same rainy day fund. This proposed budget also suggests that we should spend the full statutory amount on the state's pension obligations. That would be $9.8 billion, and an extra $2 million into that same fund to pay ahead on our significant debt obligations on pensions. The budget also seeks to reduce state operating debt, carryover debt from year to year, by $900 million. The governor himself, as far as his priorities that he outlined in his speech, he also wants to boost funding. Since we are looking at a couple of good budget years here, he wants to boost funding for public education, including universal pre-K across the state, and increase funding for K through 12 education, as well as for child care resources. As we mentioned in our last video, all the governor's plans are just that, they're plans. Now the legislature will dissect those, they'll start drafting appropriations documents and bills, we'll start seeing those, and they'll have their own hand to play in that in the coming months. As far as business and banking is concerned, the highlight in this budget is that state revenue is looking pretty good, and so there wasn't a lot of discussion about taxes, fees, new things that would be imposed on businesses or individuals in order to fund the state government. That's a positive, but of course, as funding priorities change and economic conditions change in the next couple of months, we could see a change on that as well. Stay tuned for the next video and videos throughout the spring where we dive deeper into the budget as more details are released.